So we're going to go straight into this interview. This is once again Piers Morgan talking with Mr. Bassem Youssef, or Dr. Youssef, as we should be saying. So this is an hour and 12 minutes long. Normally, I just like to, just clip out one or two things to talk about, but I think this is going to be something worth just going through the entire video and kind of just piecing it, piece by piece. So let's go ahead and let's enjoy this show.
Oh my God! Can I have a hug?
Of course.
Can I have a hug? How you doing, man?
How you doing, man?
Really good to see you.
You good?
How are you?
How are you? How are you?
I'm good.
Yeah, good. You good?
Very nice to see you. I'm so
good.
glad you came in today.
Of course. I mean, I want to always be in person. It's much nicer.
No, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
You've been critical of me saying I only do what I do because I'm after clicks.
I never said that about you.
You did.
I know that you mean well, but you are trying to two-sided.
You're trying to put a protective shield up.
Faction. I like that.
All right, let's go.
A year ago this week, I interviewed an exiled Egyptian comedian about the aftermath of October the 7th. It was a time of intense anger and passion. Bassem Youssef's jarring and satirical take became globally iconic. A month later, we met again, face-to-face, in his adopted home city of Los Angeles. And Bassem has since become an unwitting global spokesman for the Palestinian cause and against the way it's been reported by Western media. Well, more than a year in, the war rages on. There's a lot to catch up on. For the first time ever in the Uncensored studio here in London, Bassem Youssef rejoins me. Bassem, great to see you.
Great to see you too.
Finally in London, my home city, finally. Extraordinary that it's been a year. When you think back to that first interview that we did, that 23 million people watched around the world, and I still get asked about it all the time. Just take me back to how you were feeling then. It was so... In the immediate aftermath of October the 7th, Israel's response was coming very hard at the time. What was in your mind at the time when you did that interview and the way you conducted it?
I was very scared. I was advised by my managers and agents not to do the interview because I could lose my career. And I just took it because, and I actually, as a matter of fact, your producers asked me a couple of times and I said no because,
Really?
and then I said I had to do it.
I want to play, just for those who haven't seen it, there aren't many, but let's take a look at some of that first interview.
Those Palestinians, they're very dramatic. Israel killing us. But they never die. I mean, they always come back. They're very difficult to kill, very difficult people to kill. I know because I'm married to one. I tried many times, couldn't kill her.
I mean, there's a dark humor there, and I understand why, because...
No, it's not dark humor. I try to get to her every time, but she uses our kids as human shields. I can never take her out. I really applaud Israel for doing one thing that no military force in the world does. Because I heard Ben Shapiro and I heard Ron DeSantis, and they said, Israel is the only military force in the world that warns civilians before bombing them. I mean, how fucking cute. That is so nice of them. Because with this logic, if Russian troops started warning Ukrainians before bombing their houses, we're cool with Putin, right? I mean, okay, Habibi, you have warned them, go invade, it's fine, you have done your job.
It was a brilliantly devastating technique you used in that interview, which took me a while to work out what you were doing and why you were doing it. It was very powerful, resonated with many people very closely. Where do you think we are with this war now? And in fact, not just the war, obviously, in Gaza, but the wider war that's raging now in Lebanon, the threats against Iran and so on, the whole thing.
I mean, Israel is defending itself, right? I mean, that's what the Western media is telling us.
They would say they are.
Yeah, and I want to buy into it. I'm trying to convince my
Can
friends.
you buy into any of their logic that they believe they are defending themselves?
Okay.
Do you believe them, that they believe that?
Let's put that on the test. So if Israel is defending itself, it's defending itself against an imminent danger, like an existential threat. I don't understand if, for example, Macron would announce that he will impose an embargo in Israel's arms, and then Israel goes and bombs the French oil facilities in Lebanon. How is that defending themselves? There's like a group of American doctors who were in Gaza and came back, and they reported seeing tens of children with sniper shots in their heads and necks. How is that defending themselves? Just a couple of days ago, we saw a little kid being shot by a drone. His family came to help him, and then they were all killed. How is that defending itself? I mean, I hear it, but I just don't see it.
But do you believe that fundamentally Israel believes it is acting in self-defense?
He just answered you. Like, he gave descriptive scenarios that happened, and he's trying to like ease you into the answer. Like, they're killing innocent people, kids, families. How can you call that defending itself? It's like someone attacking me in the streets. I do my jujitsu, I knock them out, and then I start fighting everybody else just in the streets. I have the right to defend myself one-on-one, but then it starts getting a little ridiculous when I start just whooping on everybody else just because they're around. Like, at some point, it becomes absurd, and you can't continue to use, Israel's defending itself excuse. That got played out after, 5,000 people were killed? 10,000? 15,000? 24? Like, when does it become, okay, this is a little too much? I mean, seeing little kids shot, something I would never want to see. But I think that would be like, we're doing a little too much now. Let's reevaluate the whole situation. But
Israel can believe whatever they want. I'll tell you a story that actually can tell you exactly how Israel. I'm from Egypt. You understand this? You don't know this, right?
Yeah.
April 1970, there was an attack of an Egyptian school in the middle of Delta, 100 kilometers from where my parents were born. It's called Bahr al-Bahr. On that day, Israel bombed a school, killing 30 students. Now, what was so interesting going back in history, this was the headline of the New York Times of the day. And it says 30 pupils in Egypt said to die in rape. Said to die, the passive voice. Which raid? Who did the raid? We don't know. And then you read it. This is Moshe Dayan. He was the defense minister of Israel at the time. He said, the target had been a military structure that had been photographed from air both before and after the raid. What could have happened here was irresponsibility of high orders from the Egyptians that they set aside a floor or some room for civilian purposes such as a school. Now, do you believe that? You don't, right? It's ridiculous. And the fact is that the New York Times then, same as New York Times there, covering for it. But there was one thing that caught my attention. They said no mention was made of the use of napalm in the attack. I said, why would we have such a disclaimer? It's because 3 months ago, Israel bombed a civilian metal plant, killing 70 workers with napalm. So this, when I hear Israel defend itself, when I hear the IDF, they're liars. And I'm sorry to say, but they are.
Do you categorize what Hamas has been doing, particularly on October the 7th, what Hezbollah did within hours of October the 7th and carried on for the next year, what the Houthis have done, a lot of it orchestrated by, doubtless, the Iranian regime? Do you categorize that as resistance, as freedom fighting? Or are there elements of all those groups who are genuinely terrorist in their thinking?
Well, someone's a terrorist is other one's.
Yeah, but how you categorize it.
How I categorize it? I mean, like, I'm an American citizen. Of course, I don't want to come back and find the FBI raiding my house. So yes, of course, they're terrorists.
But do you believe that?
Well, at the advice of my lawyer, I would say
Well,
that they're terrorists.
I don't think you'd be banned from going back to America
You
if you said
think?
they were terrorists.
You know what happened to Scott Ritter? He was the former UN inspector of nuclear weapon in Iraq.
He's a convicted paedophile.
Yeah, but like when he was raided a few months ago, it was because he was talking against Israel. Asa Winstanley, he was a British journalist in London, and his house was raided just last week because he talked about Israel. And this is actually, Piers, what I like about you is that you are a fierce warrior against cancel culture, right?
Yeah.
If you cancel people for their opinion, we're not living in a free world anymore, right?
I totally agree.
So, for example, you have Robert Saleh, who was the coach of the NFL Jets. He wore like a small Lebanese flag, and he was canceled. I mean, I don't know. It's interesting. I came to America, and I was so happy that I can speak about anyone I want, and then suddenly it's like, oh, you can do whatever you want. unless if it's like
It is, I mean, it's tangible to me when I go to America, far more than it is in the UK, for example, that support for Israel is pretty rock solid in terms of their political class, in terms of much of the media, if not all of the media. It's more tangible in America than it is in most other countries.
Yeah.
Including here.
Yeah.
A lot more criticism of Israel here than there is in America.
Yeah, and yet you have Israel having a crazy control on the political apparatus, whether in America or in here. I mean, 13 out of 25 of the labor cabinet here are funded by Israeli lobbies. 126 out of 355 MPs are funded by Israel. I mean, out of those 13 members of cabinet is the prime minister himself, his counselor, his deputy, the home secretary, the foreign secretary, and the secretary of the treasury, who oversees the arms shipments to Israel. So I don't understand why. I mean, I think we should talk about that more about anything, because that is actually what gives Israel the cover for what they're doing.
And a lot of people say that, even politicians would kind of, hint at that being an issue, and not just AIPAC or just Israel funding a lot of these politicians. That's really any type of big corporation that has millions of billions of dollars to give to these politicians to do their bidding. Like, that, to me, at least in my opinion, like, you have to start there, because trying to fight the surface level type symptoms, you're never going to like fix the cause of why these politicians feel like they need to just like turn around and look away when Israel starts to do crazy things like they've been doing for a straight year now. We need to get money, super PACs and just big money out of politics in general. And in my opinion, that would like cut down 60% of just the nonsense that's at least in US politics. You know what I'm saying? So that's a good point. Once you follow the money and see where the money's going, cut that off. That's a good chunk of the snake that you need to get rid of.
My take on Israel's government is that Netanyahu, to get back into power, aligned himself with some very hard right-wing people who've spoken in a very genocidal language about what they really want to do with Gaza and Palestinian people, and that he should go and they should go, and there should be new leadership in Israel, but that there should also be no place in power or government going forward for a group like Hamas after what they did on October the 7th. Would you agree with me?
Well, I'm not a Palestinian, so I cannot really...
What's your view?
Well, what's my view? Oh, yeah, I understand the view of... Well, there's two things about it. First of all, when you say that Netanyahu and Smotrich and Ben Gvir should go, it's as if as the rest of the Israeli political scene is peaceful. As a matter of fact, more than 90% of Israelis in a poll said that they should do more in Gaza. Over 70% of Israelis said that they should actually stop the aid, the humanitarian aid in Gaza. But let's talk about how, yeah, I understand the thing. Like, if you gave them a state, it would be rewarding terrorists, right? And we understand, like, I have to be fair. I know that a lot of Arabs will hate me for saying this, but terrorism has been actually going in the Middle East for a very long time. I mean, do you remember the bombing of the King David Hotel? 92 British soldiers were killed. The bombing of the Cairo Haifa train, over 200 soldiers, British soldiers killed. The assassination of Volker Bernadotte or Lord Moyen, all done by Israeli Zionist militias. They were the terrorists, and they were rewarded of having their own state. So I don't understand the double standard. As a matter of fact, one of the people who were in these terrorist attacks was Isaac Shamir, and he was on a terrorist list, English terrorist list, and he couldn't come to London until he became a prime minister. But to be fair, the Israeli government at the time, 1949, have actually declared the Stern gang as a terrorist group, and they arrested two of them. And they gave them very, 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 very severe sentences, 8 and 5 years, and then they were released after a month.
Do you see any blame on your side for any of this going back to 1948?
Yeah.
Genuinely, I mean, I'm not after a satirical response. I mean, genuinely, when you look back at the history of this conflict, I mean, one of the most powerful pieces I've read actually about all this, or one that I just thought was very interesting, was a Jewish journalist called Jonathan Friedland at The Guardian. And he wrote a column where he said he could make a very powerful argument, both for Israel and for the Palestinians, in which he could present a case that they were the more overriding victim of this whole conflict.
I'm aware of Jonathan Friedland.
What's your view of him?
And before he answers, I just want to give just my context. Like I said in plenty of these videos, I am in a process of studying then, or at least what I can, at least what I have access to, the entire conflict. And from what I've gathered, because, I'm not just listening to just one side group, because I'm only going to learn one perspective of the argument. And it really depends on who's talking and to what extent, because a lot of people who feel like Israel has the right to be there and to defend itself, and they're being attacked because of their faith and who they are, they can make an argument. And at least for me reading it, it's like they sound so stern in their position. But then obviously on the other side, you have the Mark Lamont Hills, you have Youssef, you have I'm forgetting his name. You have a lot of compelling rebuttals and arguments saying Israel, since the Balfour declaration, like they just kind of just bomb rushed that area, displaced a lot of people, and kind of just immigrated millions of Jewish people there, and just said, this is ours and we're going to take it. So it's like, it just feels like it's not just an easy one-sided point of view on this subject. Just to be honest, on the outside looking in, trying to gather as much information as I can, it's not just an easy, they're bad, they're good, that's it. So that's what kind of makes this a lot more, trickier to just pick a side and just, that's it. If I can be honest.
Well, everybody knows he's a liberal Zionist. He's one of the most outspoken people in defending Israel.
But he wasn't. But my point was, he said that he could construct a case for Palestinians to have a genuine right to feel aggrieved.
You know what else?
Can you do the same the other way?
You know what else he said? He said, Israel has a very difficult choice of if they continue doing it in Gaza or not doing it in Gaza. All we can do is just acknowledge it and see it. And this is very privileged because he can do it because he's on the stronger side. And this is the thing. It's like, we can acknowledge it, we see it, it's so bad, we're killing civilians. But what we can do? And then we raise our hands at the end and say like, it's too bad, it's inevitable. War is so bad, it's bad. But to your point, yeah, I think the Palestinians had done a grave mistake for not accepting the settlement that they were given by the UN partition. I mean, they were given 47% of their land. And let's go back. The Balfour Declaration was 1917. At the time, there was 60,000 Jewish people living in a 700,000 population, which makes them 8%. That number jumped from 8% to 30% after the Second World War and the Holocaust. Now, imagine yourself being a Palestinian, you're having all of these refugees coming to you, and then they're forming gangs and stealing your land and killing you. And then the UN said, like, I know what we can do. I'm going to give the people who just arrived 30 years ago 53 of the land, and I'm going to give the people who are already there, who form 70%, 47%.
But there are also, so I would say to you, there are also hundreds of thousands of Jewish people who were displaced from their homes in Arab countries. So was that wrong?
Well, I advise that you read Avi Shloim, who is a Jewish Iraqi, and he also, I think he's also British. That's not the timeline. The timeline was...
It is true, though.
Yeah, but that's not the timeline. The timeline is important. The timeline was the Zionist gangs, they were killed, they raped, they stole land, and then they basically evicted the people out of their land. And overnight, 750,000 Palestinians was displaced overnight. Over the few years, of course, now Israel is now the enemy, and there was a lot of rise of nationalism and yes, in some countries that happened. But like,
But was that wrong? Is my point.
of course, but like it is not the whole thing.
What I'm trying to do, and I'm not trying to trap you or
Yeah,
trick you.
no.
I'm just trying to get you to concede that in a period since 1948, there have been things on both sides. I'm not trying to equivocate either. I'm just trying to get you to. I understand completely everything you've said and are going to say about Israel, and you're very implacable about that, and you have every right to be so. I get that. But can you find criticism of your own side in this argument going back to 48? Proper.
And that's my my issue with this entire argument. And Piers is trying to both sides the conversation. Well, they're bad and they're bad, so they're both bad. But if you try to go to the root cause, and like I say, in 1897, the Balfour Declaration, 1917. If you like Youssef just said, when your population is kind of flipped upside down overnight, well, not literally overnight, but just in a rapid, a few years, that's going to upset people. And now you're taking over their land, because Jewish people only made up around 7 or 8% before then. And now all of a sudden we're trying to divide land, and now you're trying to take a bigger piece and give the people who were already there, what? I heard only like 35%, but I guess it doesn't matter. So it's like, how do you not start from there and say everything that has happened since then has been a reaction to something? We got to figure out what the main cause is, and then we can talk about the reactions. But Piers, it feels like he just wants to talk about the reactions and be like, well, was that wrong? Well, obviously. But you can't just isolate that one situation. You gotta, unfortunately, widen the context of the conversation, which it takes a lot more, talking and understanding and reading and learning. But you can't just isolate a situation and say, was the Arab people or the Palestinian people bad in this one moment here? Well, obviously. And now he's trying to like, oh, well, see, both sides are bad. Like, that's a little disingenuous there.
Criticism, where things have been done differently, perhaps we wouldn't be where we are.
Okay, so if you are British and you had 1 million Ukrainians arriving to your home, and then over 30 years, that number increased to 30% of the population, and then the UN gave you less than half of your country, wouldn't you fight? Wouldn't you resist? But now it's our
That wasn't
fault.
my question.
What was your question?
Whether you can find anything to criticize since 1948.
Give me something to criticize.
No,
there's a lot to criticize.
You know the history better than anybody.
There is a lot to criticize. Of course, there's a lot of mistakes. I mean, the Middle East has been plagued by a lot of the military dictatorship, of course. I mean, but having mistakes we should not be penalized by having our land taken away from us just because the other side is stronger, right? Because what are you telling your kids? If you're strong and you have enough arms and weapons, you can take whatever land you want. That's not why the UN was formed. That's not why the Security Council was formed.
When you heard that Sinwar, the Hamas leader, had been killed, what were your feelings about that?
Well, when I heard he was killed, of course, it was, this is something that was actually, I said, like, oh, wow, that's actually, he survived all of that. But I think it was a huge mistake by the Israelis to release the footage, because now he's an icon, right?
Is he?
Well, again, someone's terrorist is someone else's hero, right?
Right, but all he did was lob a piece of wood at them, and that was it.
Yeah, he was also he was lost an arm, and he was there, and it took them 3 tanks to bring down the house. I mean, hey, you can respect your enemy.
But when you saw the footage, for example, of Sinwar in one of the tunnels he'd helped create, spending the billions that have been given to Hamas.
Billions?
Well, they were given billions of dollars. And I would say Netanyahu was quite happy to do that because he wanted to create a split between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. So I'm not.
So why are we blaming Hamas? Why are you not blaming Netanyahu?
No, I'm just saying that Hamas had an option of how to spend that money.
Yeah,
they were the government in power, and they chose predominantly to spend it on a tunnel system and arming themselves. When you see Sinwar walking through that tunnel safely with his wife and his kids and so on, and there's a load of money next to him.
A load of money?
There was a huge pile of cash next to where he was supposedly sleeping. When you see that, do you not think that he betrayed his own people?
No.
That they weren't able to use these tunnels, the Palestinians.
Well,
he knew when he activated October the 7th and ordered it, what the reaction was likely to be. He was sentencing to death immediately thousands of his own people, none of whom were allowed, apart from the Hamas elements, to use the tunnel system. I mean, is that not a sickening betrayal of his people?
Well, let's talk about the billions of dollars who were what was actually used. I remember a report by Ben Shapiro, and he brought like videos of Hamas digging up tubes, water pipes, and then it's like, and they're using them as weapons. And they said like, this is the money that was given to them by the EU, and they squandered it, they took the money. But the thing is, what Ben Shapiro didn't say, that he stole that report from Al Jazeera. He removed the narration, and what the narration was said that this was actually pipes that was installed by the Israelis in order to steal the money from Gaza.
Okay, but
so there's a lot of lying in the thing.
I don't
idea.
dispute this line, but what you can't dispute, Bassem, is that clearly since 2005, Hamas has spent a fortune of money they could have spent differently with their people. They spent it on this sophisticated and extensive tunnel system.
The tunnel system that is bigger than the New York subway system?
It would appear so.
450 miles?
I don't know. Do you know how big it is?
450. I mean, nobody.
You know?
I think if there's 450 miles underneath the tunnel, we have seen droves and droves of tunnels. What we have seen is small rooms, very, very.
So you don't believe that there is?
No, I don't. No, I don't believe. Of course, there are tunnels, but I don't believe that they are like 450 miles, because that's ridiculous. If you want to understand, you tell me that Hamas, under siege, were able to build a subway system bigger than New York in less than 15 years? I don't think.
Did they serve their people, though?
Once again, that's a good point. I'm not going to argue that Hamas, they misused the money. If so, then that's a shame on them. Like, you can't argue that. But to say that, and I did hear that, and he puts it in better perspective, like that area under siege, under occupation by Israel, you think they had 15 years to create 400 something miles of tunnel underground? You're gonna see something. You're gonna say something. And I'm not sure if you've seen the pictures and how these military kind of safe kind of blockades, and just how they were occupying these areas. It wasn't just like, they had like one tower just watching over the entire area. Like, they were literally next to people's houses. Someone's backyard was literally next to a Israeli type of like barricade. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were in their area. So to say, and I didn't think about that, but to say that they did all this stuff without any Israeli military knowing is a little shady. You know what I'm saying? Like, it only happens in movies, where like the prisoners like digging a tunnel and no guards, no one has never seen this being done this entire time until he escapes. It's like, are we just that not aware of what's going on?
With how they spent their money?
I'm not sure. I don't know. The thing is, like, there's a lot of propaganda. I don't know how much they spend on themselves. I don't know how much they spend on the tunnels. I don't know how much they spend on the people. But the thing is, these are all side talks. The main talk is the daily killing that's happening all through. Like, I mean, yeah, they could be bad people. They could be horrible people. They could be corrupt people.
Could be or are?
They are. Okay? They are horrible. They are vampires. They are zombies.
But do you believe that? Or are you just saying that for performative reasons?
No, I'm saying that because, again, I don't want to go and find the FBI at my door.
But I'd rather you were honest. I mean, surely we're at the stage of this war now, a year on, where I can find a lot to criticise with Netanyahu and his government, and I can find a lot to criticise with Hamas, with Hezbollah, with Iran. I can find a lot to criticise all over the place. Mm-hmm. I think as part of the problem is it's just an extraordinary mess with a lot of people who've been behaving badly.
Yeah. I think, and maybe once again, just coming from my own opinion, if Hamas purposely went out to kill innocent people, under occupation or not, you are deciding to do something bad, evil. You killing innocent people, it's no excuse for that. And like Mr. Coast had, he's been expressing, like, when you're under occupation and just in that type of living for a couple of decades now, you're going to get to the point to where everyone is your enemy, military or not. And I get that. But once you make that decision, you lose the moral ground there. Like there's no, I can't say in good faith, you can kill these innocent people because of what they're putting you through. And 9 times out of 10, those innocent people probably hate you. And I understand that. But once you decide to do that, you can't come back from that. At least in my opinion. And that's goes with whoever, Hamas or not Hamas. So that's my opinion.
In my opinion, betraying their people and making it almost impossible to come together for peace.
So basically, we punish the Palestinians for being betrayed by Hamas, and we punish the Palestinians again by letting them get slaughtered every day.
You punish the Palestinians in the sense that you're exacting retaliation for a heinous terror attack on your people. That's what the Israelis say.
Fine. Okay.
Should they not have responded?
Who, Israel?
Yeah. On October the 8th, should their response have been to do nothing?
Oh, it's the question of like, what would I have done, right? Which is like one of the craziest questions ever. It's like, what would I have done? What would I have done if I magically got teleported into the body of a serial killer?
What should they have done?
Well, again, this is asking after the fact, Piers.
But what do you think now, looking back? What would have been a better course of action? Their argument, Israel, is they went after Hamas. They've just taken out the leader of Hamas, who was literally amongst people in Rafah, which was a refugee camp area. That's where he was hiding, and they killed him there. They say that justifies them going into Rafah. It's an arguable point, obviously, but you can't deny that Sinwar was hiding there. They also...
But that just happened, and depending on when you're watching this, that just happened a few days ago, less than a week. This genocide has been happening for over a year, and more than 100,000 people have died. I mean, we can talk about the destruction of the area, but does that justify killing that many people? So my response would be, they needed to not just drop bombs everywhere. Just kind of throwing ish at the wall, seeing what sticks. Like that's not how you treat a situation like this. Because under international law, that's called collective punishment, when you're punishing a group of people for a small group of people's decision. You can't do that. You can't just flatten an entire area, bombing discriminately, looking for one person. That doesn't make sense. So that's my answer. Like, if I could go back and make a better decision, I wouldn't flatten and kill hundreds of thousands of people looking for one. Israel's military, from what I heard, is almost up there with America's military. I mean, of course, no one can't beat America, but they should have the technology and the information to be a little bit more precise instead of just dropping bombs and hoping that we're going to get the person we want. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I never been to war. I never conducted a war, so maybe I don't know. But it just feels like it could have been, I know it is a smarter way to do it. But like I said before, I think this was just their excuse to kill as many innocent Palestinian people as possible and just put it under the banner, it's war. So this is kind of what happens in war, you know, so.
To say that all of what they've been doing is a response to what happened to their people and that they have to stop the group that did that from doing it again, which they're wedded to doing.
So what is their proportionate response?
Well, that's been the question I've asked for a year.
Yeah, but like, you know,
I don't know the answer.
That question kind of lost its validity after 1 month of the war.
Well, I've seen you say, for example, you've been critical of me saying, I only do what I do because I'm after clicks, I'm after...
I never said that about you.
You did.
No.
No, you did.
When?
We found it.
Where?
Let me find that clip. Where is it?
Where is it? Oh,
not a clip. No, it's an interview. Where is it?
Oh, okay.
Here we go. Yeah. So you said this.
Yeah.
You said at the Arab Media Forum in June. I don't know why people care that Piers Morgan changes his opinion.
Yes.
He's a man who seeks trends and increasing viewership. It's true.
Yes.
As he hosts people and sits with them to raise viewership numbers. Yes. His opinion isn't important at all because he only cares about what is trending and what people will talk about. So it doesn't matter that he changed his opinion. Piers is a man who has a media platform on which we appear to convey our ideas to his viewers, nothing more.
And there's nothing wrong with that. By the way, that's your job, actually, to get clicks and views. Because the question I was asked is, what do you think of
But the
Piers?
implication of
does he change your mind? And I said, like, I don't care about him changing
I understand
his mind,
that.
because that's your job.
But the implication of what you were saying was that that's all I care about. And that I don't actually care about what I genuinely care about, which is trying to work out what the world should think about this. What is the correct proportionate response from either side to any of the things that have happened? And I think it is morally complex. You find it morally more straightforward. I find it complicated. And I've wrestled with how I should think about this. I've gone on a bit of a journey. Now, it doesn't mean that, for example, I would find common ground with you about the way the Palestinian people have been treated for many decades. I do think it's been a form of occupation. I do think
form of?
A form?
Yeah.
Not an...
I was about to say that. Whoa, what is a form of? It almost doesn't count. You can't almost be occupying an area for decades. You can almost in like a day or two, a week, a month, half a year, but for decades, at some point you're occupying. You can't just be almost occupying for decades. Like, and I'm glad that he caught that, because I was about to.
Not an occupation. Not a full-blown occupation.
As I said to Israelis when they come on, I don't know how you can argue that it's an occupation. I know you moved out in 2005, but the reality is once this war started...
They didn't move out.
Well, once they formally moved out.
You basically went out of the room and you locked the room and you basically controlled the perimeter of the room.
I was about to say, after October the 8th, when they began to turn off the water supply, the food supply, the power and so on, it was quite clear they still wield power.
But that was going on since 2006.
No, I understand.
That never stopped.
So I'm agreeing with it.
You know what Dove wise...
I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is, clearly that is a form of occupation. Otherwise, it wouldn't have the power.
It is an occupation, not a form.
Yeah. I mean, look...
It's like, say, like it's a form of terrorism.
Okay, I take that point. Yeah. Let's call it an occupation. And it has to end. And in my view, I've always hoped and believed there should be a two-state solution. Do you believe that is even remotely achievable now?
I don't know, because the thing is, you created a mess. You completely destroyed all kinds of...
We say me. What do you mean me?
No, not you. Right. I mean, I'm like you as...
Don't look at me when you say that. I'm not creating any mess.
Like you created a mess as like you as the stronger part in the conflict. The thing is, it is very... it's very disappointing to see... I know that you mean well, but you are trying to two-sided. I found this is mistake. No, but one.
But there are two sides.
No, yes, but one side of
you're too one-sided, and understand why.
Okay.
You know, your wife has family in Gaza. I get it, right? You're going to be one-sided. That's why I've asked you at the start of the interview.
No. Hold on. Time out. You don't have to be that close to the situation to try to make a precise conformed analysis of the situation. You don't have to have people in Israel or people in Gaza to like be more pushed to one side than the other. I mean, just a little reading, just a little hearing both sides of the argument, then you can kind of assess your own perspective on the situation. And sometimes it's like that alone, just the information alone, pushes you more towards one side than the other. Like, I don't know anybody in Israel, don't know anybody in Gaza or the West Bank or Lebanon, but I am more compelled to defend the innocent Palestinian people. And I don't have any connections over there. But that's just based off the information that I have. And trust me, I've been listening to the Ben Shapiro's and a lot of those idiots. And trust me, I have to take my time with them, but I hear them. So that's a little, once again, disingenuous.
Back over since 1948, do you find anything to criticize on your side? And your inability to articulate any response to that makes me think you are too one-sided. Do you accept that?
If I met Mike Tyson in the streets and I kicked him, and he responded by kicking me in the face, killing me, yes, I did, but like he has a lethal weapon, his hands.
Yeah.
Israel is 1,000 times stronger, and they have the whole of the support, all of the money.
But here's my analogy for you with the Mike Tyson thing. Mm-hmm. If you had taken thousands of people and you'd gone to Mike Tyson's house and you committed atrocities on his extended family and friends, raping them and killing them and setting people alive. Well, I know you don't believe there was any sexual abuse.
I don't believe.
Well, there was sexual abuse.
We can talk about that.
Well, we will come to that, but I think it's inarguable.
Hey, once again, that has been debunked. Like a week after those claims, unless he's talking about a whole different situation when supposedly Hamas broke through the walls, they just start putting babies in ovens and all this horrific stuff. There was literally journalists there that was, I don't want to misquote people, but they had said they were told to lie and none of that had happened. You know, so it's like that has been debunked over and over again weeks after those claims. So unless he's talking about a whole nother situation,
it's been investigated by the United Nations.
Have you read the report?
Well, I've had journalists who I respect more than any in the world.
Have you read the report?
There is indisputable evidence of sexual abuse.
Okay, let's talk about that when it comes.
We will. Well, and we'll agree to differ, I'm sure. But my point is, I believe it has been established. But putting aside that, you don't dispute people were killed. You don't dispute people were set on fire. You don't dispute any of the stuff that happened on October the 7th that we saw through Hamas's own cameras, right?
Yeah,
you don't dispute what we saw with our own eyes.
I know what I've seen, and of course, and as a matter of fact, I've seen many of them. Yes, it's terrible.
Okay,
but
so my point is, if you did all that to Mike Tyson's family, and then he,
but I'm not gonna be.
Well, hang on.
It's a one-to-one man. It's not 1,000 to
But
one.
if you did all that, and then he punched you in the face and killed you, would you feel that was justified?
No, but the thing is,
no,
sir, you're trying to.
You're
trying to.
Well, I'm throwing your analogy back at you.
You're trying. No, that's not the wrong. I said like me and Mike Tyson, man to man, and he's much stronger than me. I'm not gonna show up with like 1,000 person. So if you want to do the analogy, you need to modify the analogy again. And the thing is, I think it's like we always ask what Israel should do, but we never ask what should the Palestinians do. Because, I mean, I know that there's like really great examples. I mean, there are some peaceful examples. There's a beautiful boy called Mido. He's 19 years old. He's an exchange student in Texas. And he was moved from one safe zone to the other, and he ended up into a safe zone, and he was farming. He had a beautiful, beautiful garden, and he was farming, and he was blogging about it. His mom died because of lack of medicine, but he continued to farm. And you know what happened to him? He was killed in an airstrike. You asked me about the Nelson Mandela, and there's a man called Ahmed Abu Trema. He was inspired by the civil rights movements and the anti-apartheid movement in South Africa, and he toured the churches and the schools and the colleges in the United States, and he came back, and Israel hit him in an airstrike, killing 5 of his family, including his son, and he was injured. If Palestinians march, they get killed. If they throw a stone at a tank, they get killed. If they sit at home quietly, someone will come in and take their home away and they kill them. If someone just like picking up olives, that they will kill him. So what would the and I don't know, like...
But it sounds to me like what you're doing, you're constructing...
That like I'm justifying October 7th, right?
No, I'm going to put words in your mouth, but it sounds to me like you're saying, what else did you expect?
Yeah, what else did you expect? If you...
Why can't we say that? I mean, am I going to get in trouble? Am I going to get in trouble with just understanding history, putting the entire conflict in context? What do you expect to happen when you occupy hundreds of thousands of people, and like Piers even said, controlling the water, the jobs, infrastructure, just housing, just like literally in their city? Like you wake up and you cannot forget you're being occupied. Like it's crazy. So what do you expect from people who want to have dignity, who want to have opportunity, who want to have some sort of life to live? What do you think they're going to do? But then we get mad when they rebel in any way, shape, or form. You know, we can talk about Hamas doing this and misspending. Okay, but you have to understand, if you're occupying and you're treating people like this, that at least in my opinion, you're leaving it wide open for anyone who has ill intentions to captivate these people and to lead something like that. What do you expect, honestly?
You treat people like animals, they will behave like animals, Piers.
So you accept they behave like animals?
Yeah, some of them did, yes. Some of them did, yes. Like, yeah,
I mean, there were 3,000 of them.
Yeah. Well,
entering at 13 different points.
So 13,000, 3,000?
3,000 Hamas at 13 entry
so
points.
So for that, you killed 50,000 people.
Well, they killed 1,200 people. They kidnapped over 200.
No. I said like Israelis, for that, they killed 50,000
Well, hang on.
people.
I'm about to give you the numbers as we now believe them. So 1,200 people were killed, of which 400 were believed to be military. Then you had nearly
once again, that's where it gets a little weird with what information that you get from. But from what I heard, out of the 1,200, it was 800 Israeli soldiers, and the rest were innocent people. Once again, any innocent person being killed is a no-no for me. But that's where it gets weird when wherever you get your information from is going to differ. So
1,000 more people who were wounded, many of them irrevocably badly. You had over 250 people kidnapped, including a baby who's never been returned, Holocaust survivors, grandparents, and so on. And my question is really, I'm not sure what you would have expected Israel to do, but more pertinently, what should they have done?
Well, I don't know, Piers, because...
But you've got to have some idea. You can't just say what you did is wrong.
Yeah.
You've got to have a thing of, given what happened to them, given that huge blow to their country and to their people, given that Hamas said we're going to keep doing this to you, what should Israel have done?
So let's nuke Gaza, right? I mean, that's like...
They haven't nuked Gaza. They could have done.
They have dropped
bombs. They could have done.
Yeah,
I mean, my argument to those who say it's genocide is, if they'd wanted to, Israel has the ability to blow up the whole of Gaza now. They haven't done that.
So
what is left of Gaza? Like from the destruction that I've seen, what is left of it? And I wish I would have had my notes on how many pounds of bombs they've dropped and how much rubble and destruction they have caused. What is left? Gaza was not a big area. It was oh man, I wish I would have had the notes, but they compared to like a East Coast state. Like, it was not a huge place. So what more is left of Gaza? I don't know. So, but I mean, you know, we can argue the numbers and never get anywhere.
If you really are genocidal, why wouldn't you do that?
If people are still around, it's not a genocide. If monkeys are still alive, how there's no...
Well, you have 2 million people residing in Gaza, of which over 42,000 have been killed.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
No,
What's
no.
Is
the,
that genocide after a year?
so what's the threshold?
Well, it's not. My point is that if you're waging genocide, Israel has the capability to kill all 2 million people very quickly.
How about too much killing? Is that good?
I think there has been too much killing.
Yeah. How about extreme
But I don't think it's a
termination of life?
I don't think it's a
I mean, if you don't
genocide.
like the G word, we can.
Yeah, but I don't think
use
it's a
other
genocide, is it?
words. We're wasting our time in definitions.
What is, well, we're not, because it's important, because what is genocidal is what Hamas has said they want to do to Israel.
What did they say to do?
They want to eradicate Israel.
Is according to their charter?
Yes.
Which charter?
Well, their original charter said that.
And then what happened in 2017?
Well, I'd rather go forward to what happened.
No. But what happened?
No, hang on.
Like because you're.
I know they
using this-
rewrote the charter.
Yeah, but why don't you say that?
Because it's overtaken by what happened on October the 7th.
So it doesn't
no,
count?
because, Bassem, because...
I mean, you keep telling people as
Hang
if
on.
this is the status quo.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying their original charter stated eradication of Israel.
Mm-hmm.
And the Hamas spokesman said after October the 7th, we want to keep doing this again and again and again. He said it on camera. That is an existential threat to all Israelis.
Well, there's a lot of horrible things that Israelis say on camera, Piers. But the only
I agree.
But the only difference is
And I criticise them too.
But Israel acts on it, and they have the power to do it.
But I've already
At the
told
end
you
of
that I
the-
believe that Ben Gvir and Smotrich have used genocidal
Just
language.
them, Piers. It's not just them, and you know it's not just
No,
them.
I accept
it's
them,
a,
but
it's a whole apparatus, a whole system.
They're the two worst offenders in the government.
But the rest of the government is terrible.
Yeah, so my question is again, and I think it's an important one, is I get that you don't think they should have done this the way they've done it, Israel. But given they had to respond, how should they have responded? Because when they responded in a more precision way, and we can come to you, I know you don't agree with me about this, but I think you criticised Bill Maher for saying that what they did with Hezbollah was military success. Well, indisputably, from a military perspective, it was successful. They managed to be very precise in targeting 3,000 members of Hezbollah at the same time through pages. As an active military strategy, it was very effective. It did kill a lot of civilians as well.
Yeah.
And that is
That's
obviously...
too bad, of course.
No, it is too bad. All civilian death is too bad. But my point is, if they had done that strategy in Gaza, where they had gone after Hamas through pages or whatever, I still think you would have said it was wrong.
Israel is the strongest part in this, and they have unlimited supply of money and power.
Yeah.
And as you say in superhero movies, with great power there's great responsibility. And the whole idea of like how could they respond, and then we sit there discussing this while Israel actually responding on a daily basis. By the time we finish this interview,
It's a valid question, isn't it? It's a valid question about how you think they should have done it differently, or you think they should have done nothing.
No, I didn't say that they said nothing. But
So if you assume they had to
Israel has the technology and the ability to do more surgical attacks than that. But to decimate a whole region, displacing 100% of the population.
That's the answer I was looking for. I was starting to get a little frustrated. Like, come on, Yosef, I need you just to answer the question. And I know he knows this. I know he spent a lot of more time than I have thinking about this. Israel has the right to respond just like any other nation, just like any other person, individual person. Someone attacks you, you need to defend yourself. Like, that's really basic human instinct, okay? But the issue is when you're indiscreetly killing innocent people, you have crossed the line. You need to stop. Right then and there. We need to go back to the drawing board and figure out what your game plan is. But just to be bombing, just to bomb and hope you hit something is not acceptable. And a genocide isn't one moment. A genocide can take years. So I mean, if we want to put things into context, it's not you have like one day to genocide millions of people, and if you don't do it in a day, then it's not a genocide. Like, a genocide can take years to accomplish. Just read history. So I'm glad Yosef just gave that answer.
I don't think we.
I think it's wrong.
Good.
I agree with you.
Good.
I do.
Good. Now, it's not on me to decide to Israel what to do. Maybe Israel could check with itself and see what had led to that. Yes, what happened is terrible, but they need to discuss. But the thing is, there's a roadblock between us, Piers, because it seems that we are far apart of actually what happened on October 7th. And I know there's a lot of people here came and talk about what happened October 7th. I would like to have a chance to tell you what, from my point of view, what me and my people think. And
Go
you
on,
can,
tell me.
you can
Tell me what you think happened.
So there are three big things that made the world accept what is happening now in Palestine. And they talk like, what will happen now? What can we get it? Three things. The story of the decapitated babies.
That was not true.
Good. So why didn't the Western media refute it? Why didn't they?
Well, it was refuted very quickly.
Really?
Yes.
But
very quickly.
How many times the Western media has used that media? Until today, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, is still repeating it. Until now, Benjamin Netanyahu.
It's not true.
Even Joe Biden himself, in a press conference a few months ago, repeated that beheading babies and stuff. Like, even our own president, current president today, repeated that lie, and it was debunked. Like I said, weeks after October 7th. So people are reporting it, but the loudest people in the room that actually have the juice and the weight to like change the narrative of the situation, they're not saying nothing. So there you go.
I know, but it was.
But it has been discounted by the media.
No, not really.
It has.
Not really, and it didn't. And in the discounting and refuting, and I think when you have an apology or a retraction, it has to be.
Yeah, but I was accused of saying it. I never said it.
You said.
No, I didn't say it.
You said. It came to me as a revelation that I read about 40 murder babies. Some of them are decapitated.
Yeah, maybe in that. Yeah.
You said
which
that.
were early reports.
With John Collins.
Yeah.
Right.
Which were early reports.
I understand.
Which turned out not to be true.
I know, but like this. But you understand the shock, the initial shock that made the public turn a blind eye of what's happening. Because, like, I mean, if I was like a European, it's like, oh my God.
But I would throw back at you, Bassem, this. I don't know if you've seen all the GoPro camera footage from Hamas that they broadcast to the world, but I have seen a lot of it.
Me too.
And
I have them. I've seen them.
So I think splitting hairs, which is what I would call it, over the nature of the depravity, given the way that they openly boasted and gleefully conducted so much depravity, I just think it's a bit pointless. It's like, what's the point?
Because and you know, if anyone who watches scary movies or those intense movies or TV shows, and this is what I tell my wife, because, you know, we're always, you know, watching these, you know, like K-dramas and things like that. Like, when these shows utilize old people, women, or kids or babies in like these, you know, thriller type movies, like you instantly feel for that situation, for that baby, that child, that old person who can't defend themselves. So, and just like Youssef said, like, when all the media around the world was saying they beheaded babies, you're instantly going to allow people to think like whatever needs to be done to punish these people, it needs to be done. You cross the line when you behead babies. Okay, like, that's as Satan as it gets. That's as evil as anyone can get, you know? So it doesn't really matter what has been retracted a week or two later. Like, that's instilled in people's head, in people's heads. And I didn't see any pictures, thank God, but I can just imagine, and I still kind of get like uneasy just thinking about it, you know? So you already put that in people's heads. Now, nobody wants to hear anything because they're going to say it's a lie. It was a conspiracy to try to cover it up, blah, blah, blah. They're already locked and loaded with that image in their head. They don't care what you're saying. They just want these people to be eradicated for beheading babies. So
what you're trying to say is, yes, they were barbaric. Yes, they were disgusting. They may not have done this precise thing, so therefore I give them a pass.
But that matters. I know what, because if I came here on your show and I told you 5 million children were slaughtered in Gaza, what would you tell me, Piers? You said, no, there are only 16, 17,000 people.
Facts matter.
Because facts matter. Yeah. Because here's the difference between...
But I told you I agree with you.
But here's the thing. The difference between killing children and decapitating babies, the image of decapitating a baby, that makes his an effect.
Kidnapping a baby is okay.
Never.
But they kidnapped a baby.
You see, you're coming back to like.
No, I'm saying, what's the difference?
No, the difference is
you kidnap a baby and take it away from its family.
And you decapitate 40 babies. That's terrible, right? I mean, the thing is, both of them are terrible.
You're trying to, if you don't mind me saying, what you're trying to do is say, Well, they weren't quite as medievally barbaric as that, but they did do this, and that's not as bad. And I'm saying to you, actually, it is as bad.
Yeah, one person,
kidnapping a baby,
one person killed, one person
and they
kidnapped.
they did behead people.
Where?
On October the 7th.
When?
Multiple reports
Babies?
of beheadings.
Babies?
I didn't say babies. I said they did behead people.
Why?
See, and once again, yes, anything that's evil is evil. Kidnapping a baby and beheading a baby is all evil. Like, we understand that. But if you had to choose a scenario, and, you know, I would hate to kind of put people in this, you know, choices, but if you had to choose either those kids were kidnapped in hoping that they can get rescued or released, or just beheading babies, there's no coming back from that. You're not going to return back to life. Like, once you're dead, like, you're kind of dead. You know what I'm saying? So yes, evil is evil. A through Z, there's no in between. Evil is evil. I get that. But we have to be honest here. If you're telling people they're kidnapping babies, yeah, we need to get those babies back. We need to punish the people who had kidnapped these babies. But if you say they beheaded 40 babies, oh, I will be ready to just level the entire place. You know what I'm saying? Like, there is no reason for us to negotiate anything if you beheaded innocent little babies. There's no coming back. We don't need to talk about nothing. I'm just bombing everything. So when you tell people that, they're going to react just how I did. Oh, let's just take them all out then. You know, so let's just be honest.
Again, why would
is beheading an adult worse or better than a baby?
Like, how many decapitated babies, Palestinians, have you seen already on television?
Yeah, way too many.
Yes.
Disgusting.
Yes. Again,
But I can say both are disgusting. Can you?
Yes.
You do?
Of course.
So you accept
Of course.
people were beheaded?
But again, media.
Do you accept people were beheaded on October the 7th?
I haven't seen anyone beheaded.
So no evidence of any...
I've never seen it.
What do you think happened then to all these people?
Oh, they were shot point blank. They were, some of them, a couple
None were
of them,
beheaded. You don't believe those reports?
I don't believe them, yeah.
Come on.
But like, even in one or two, it's terrible, of course, but like, okay, you go in, I mean, I don't understand, like, my point is, Piers, is that...
And I don't know, sometimes I understand when you're trying to have a conversation with someone and, you know, millions and millions and millions of people are going to watch. I don't understand why you can't just be honest and don't care if someone says, oh, you lost the debate or you this and this. If Piers is asking you, do you think people were beheaded? And your answer is, I didn't see it. Okay, that's cool. But just because you didn't see it doesn't mean it didn't happen. So what you should say is, I didn't see it, but if it did happen, that's evil. That's bad. I denounce that. Whatever you want to say. But just don't like say it didn't happen. Well, you didn't see all the evidence. And I don't expect Youssef to see everything and know everything. But you can't just like say something didn't happen just because you didn't see it. That's not a credible rebuttal to really any conversation, you know. And someone like Piers, you know, he just wants to hear both sides are bad. You have to just give that and say, if it did happen, I didn't see it, but if it did happen, that's evil. There's no way around that, you know. So sometimes you just have to give a little to get a lot more out of the conversation.
On October 7th, there's a lot of very, very sensational reports that made people turn a blind eye of what's going in Gaza. One of them is the beheaded babies, right?
But that was discounted so quickly.
No.
It was, I remember.
No, not quickly.
Well, so why is Mike Johnson still doing it and saying it like...
I've not seen him do that, but if he is, he's wrong.
Yeah, but many of them still. That is actually the narrative. That's the narrative. That's how
I've not seen anyone in official...
So that's one thing. This is the decapitated. But the second thing, the Hannibal directive. Low-key sat here in my chair, and you talked to him and you said... you read a piece of heart saying that investigation if the IDF ordered Hannibal directive to be used, adding that they didn't know how many soldiers were killed. But it was used. And then 2 minutes later, he said, like, there's a lot of documentation. And he said, like, I just read it to you. It's never happened. No, it happened, Piers. Now, in the same report that you quoted...
I did later in the interview tell him that I knew that there had been reports in Haaretz that had happened.
Yes, and there is another...
But just to be clear, that's not been admitted by the Israeli government.
Yeah, well,
I'm not saying it didn't happen.
Well, they're liars.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying I did say to Loki that there is reporting in Haaretz, which is one of the big Israeli media publications, that it had happened and that order had been given. It has been unequivocally denied by Israel.
Yeah,
that's my point.
I know, okay.
Right. But my point about what Hamas did is almost all of it is indisputable because they gleefully broadcast it to the world. These things are not up for debate. They went house to house.
I never denied it, and I'm not defending it.
So trying to equivocate with
no, I'm not equivocating.
The scale of the barbarity.
No, the scale is important. The scale is important because if you came into the first of all, the original number was 1,400. It was down now to 1,200, and then it down to 1,129. That is the final official number. One baby was killed, Mila Cohen, 10 months old,
and one kidnapped.
One kidnapped.
Right.
All right, and 12 kids were killed between the age of 1 to 9, and 36 were killed between 9 and
But you
18.
don't believe that any women were sexually abused?
Okay, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
But before that, I just want to just mention something about because that's important. This is the pictures. You know this picture, right?
Is this burnt out cars after October?
Yes. Okay. This is the picture. All right. And then we should believe that Hamas went in with AK-47 and caused that kind of damage.
Have you seen the footage of them actually going car by car doing that kind of thing?
Yeah, but they didn't. This is burned and destroyed.
How do you know how many they did?
Does this look like AK-47 thing?
Looks like a bunch of cars that have been set on fire, yeah.
Yeah, set on fire. Okay, then if you, I know...
What's your argument? The Israelis did all that themselves?
This is pictures for something called the Highway of Death from Iraq. Mm-hmm. This is the same thing. This is Apaches. These are Apaches, right? So this is actually cars.
Right, but have you seen the footage of Hamas going car to car?
Yeah, killing them with machine guns.
And setting fire to the cars?
Yeah, but that is not the
actually, that is exactly how they
Yeah, that is like a car of an Apache. These are the Apaches.
Well, it's also the look of a car that's been set on fire.
Yeah, but that doesn't cause that kind of generation.
You're just surmising, you're guessing.
No, I'm not guessing.
Why are you trying to excuse what Hamas did?
One of them is I'm not excusing.
All right.
I'm talking about facts.
Well, these aren't facts. This is just you saying. Well, look at these pictures. Look at those. They look quite similar.
At least.
Have you seen many burned out cars in your life? Because I have.
Really, and I have too. In the revolution, I had many. Yeah, but that's.
And they didn't look like that.
But this is Apaches.
Or it's burnt out cars.
So many burnt cars with them.
There were a lot. They went car to car to car.
Yeah,
they were literally stopping cars and killing people and burning them.
Interesting, yes.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't you believe it? They wanted us to believe that. They wanted to show the world that.
Well, at least there is a shred of doubt.
There's not really. What you're trying to do, Bassem, and I understand it, but what you're trying to do is you're trying to put a little protective shield up to what Hamas did. And my response is, I don't know why you would do that, because Hamas didn't want any protective shield to what they were doing. They were gleeful about it. They showed the world in live streaming exactly what they were doing. They were proud of their depravity. You don't need to defend it or downgrade it or diminish it or reduce it.
I'm talking.
Well, let's talk about your claim that you don't think.
So, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know what Youssef was trying to prove there. I'm not sure if this is the right setting for him to try to explain the pictures of what's going on. Like I don't know. And he just flashed them and then put them down. And it's like, for an education for what he's trying to explain, I think you need a different setting so you can take the time to explain to people, this is, what an attack like this really looks like compared to this here. Like, I think he was trying to do a comparison of, this couldn't have happened the way that Israel has put it. And that's just me guessing, but like, I don't know what he was trying to prove there. But once again, I don't think this is the right setting to explain it like that, because you're going to have to go into some extensive detail. So I don't know. I got to admit, like, I don't know what he was trying to do there.
Any women were sexually abused?
Yes. Well, the Times of London, which is a right-leaning newspaper, talked about the UN report, and they said Pramila Patten, who confirmed Israeli authorities were unable to provide much of the evidence that political leaders had insisted existed in all the Hamas video footage Patton's team had watched and all the photographs they had seen. There were no depiction of rape. We hired a leading Israeli dark web researcher to look for evidence of those images, including footage deleted from public sources. None could be found. And Patton said the first letter that I received from the government of Israel talked about hundreds of thousands of cases of brutal sexual violence perpetrated against men, women, and children. I have not found anything of that. That is the UN report.
Well, the same UN Special Representative, Pramila Patten, reported in March 24 that there was, quotes, clear and convincing information that Israeli hostages in Gaza experienced sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture, and cruel, inhumane, and degrading treatment, that there are reasonable grounds to believe such abuse is ongoing. And there was also, her quotes, reasonable grounds to believe that conflict-related sexual violence occurred during the 7th of October attacks in multiple locations across Gaza periphery, including rape and gang rape in at least 3 locations.
But the same commission said has refused testimonies obtained by journalists and the Israeli police. I mean, I'm reading the same report.
It's the same woman.
And I'm reading the same woman.
March 2024. So my point is, you're reading selectively from that report.
And you're reading selectively too?
I'm reading a point which actually crystal clear that there was sexual abuse and violence both on October the 7th and indeed to hostages, which may be ongoing.
No, I've read the whole report. And then what you say...
Well, why haven't you read that?
I've read that.
If you read that, you would include that.
But if you read that, you'll include that too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the thing, you see what you're saying here? That
Well, you're just not reading that out.
Oh my God.
Piers, the thing is like...
I have great respect for you, Bassem. If you're going to use a woman's quotes to prove your point, you've got to use the rest of the quotes where she actually proves the opposite.
Yeah, but in the same report, they said that all of this was not provided by the Israeli or any forensic evidence that proved that. It's mostly witnesses that was provided
Clear
by
and
the
convincing information. Reasonable grounds
So
to believe.
but there was no... It was written and there's
I've also read people like Christina Lamb, one of the best war correspondents in the world, who writes for the Sunday Times, who has done some stunning journalism with victims of this abuse, female victims of the sexual abuse and rape. I mean, are you saying she's just made that up? Is she lying? She's an award-winning journalist. Why would she?
Well, also Gettleman, Jeffrey Gettleman, who's an award-winning journalist of the New York Times, who wrote the Screams Without Voices, Screams Without Words. His article was completely panned by 60 journalists who said that article was a shame.
But are you saying that Christina Lamb just made her reporting up?
I don't know who's Christina Lamb.
You've never heard of her?
No.
Literally one of the top war correspondents in the world, renowned for her utter impartiality.
Yeah, but the thing is...
From a series of reports of women who were raped and abused by Hamas.
Yeah.
And continue to be so, the hostages.
So, from what I'm getting is, Youssef is saying that there was no evidence, there was no proof. And what Piers is saying, there was people who said that they seen this happen. And supposedly this journalist is taking into account that people have seen it. So I kind of understand what both of them are trying to dish out, but like, I mean, you kind of do need proof because people can just say things, just like Springfield in Ohio. Like, some people say, yeah, I seen it, but then when journalists and news networks found these people, they said, no, I heard it from a friend that told a friend that said it on Facebook. It's like, you can't really just take hearsay. And sometimes that's just all you have. So I understand that, but Youssef is saying there was no proof. Where's the proof? And I guess from the same article, she's saying there was no proof. So I guess we're gonna have to read the article to kind of get the full understanding of what she was trying to relay. But that's just one of the downfalls is people are going to cherry pick information that backs their perspective automatically. That's just human nature. So you have to have enough integrity to read everything and take everything within context and then form your opinion. But after I read it, I can't really say much.
You don't believe any of it? You think none of it's happened?
No, I don't believe.
You see, I find that disheartening that you wouldn't believe that.
No, I don't believe it. And the thing
it makes me think, Bassem, that and I listen, I say to you, I have great respect for you, but it makes me think you look at it through such a partisan prism that you can't, even when confronted with obvious
I just confronted
depravity.
you with the same reports.
Well, yeah, but you said...
I showed you had the Hannibal report.
But the point you're trying to make is, well, all these cars were obviously blown up by Israel. Hamas didn't do that to any of them. Hamas didn't rape or abuse any women. And it's all bullshit. Of course they did.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
You know it.
No.
In your heart, you know
I
that.
don't think so.
You don't want to concede an inch.
No.
And understand why, because you think that actually the bigger picture is that Israel's behaved like this for so long towards the Palestinians with their occupation, apartheid.
But we never know. As a matter of fact, we have the Israelis raping Palestinians on camera.
But you think it diminishes your argument if you give an inch to any of this stuff? My point to you, it would actually, I think it would strengthen you, not diminish you, if you were able to concede these things had happened, rather than try and defend it or try and excuse it or pretend it didn't happen.
This particular...
But what, and I don't want to try to speak for Youssef. He's a grown man. He can do it for himself. But it feels like, at least in my perspective, if you acknowledge that Hamas gang raped everyone and just, shot everyone, and it almost could be like you're trying to justify Israel doing what they're doing now. Now, is that a fair assessment? That's a good conversation. But like, there is on record Israeli guards and these soldiers doing that to Palestinian people that they captured. I can't think right now. So it's like, it's not just a one-sided thing. Like, both sides are doing stupid shit, and when you're killing innocent people, you're losing that argument right off the bat. So if Youssef doesn't believe it, then he just doesn't believe it. So I guess that conversation is gonna end right there.
Clear point, Piers, has been debated by so many people on both sides.
The woman you quoted, I've literally just read to you.
And I've just written some
you
for
didn't
you.
read out what she's actually
And you didn't read
about
out mine. So that means that this is a very conflicting report at best. All right? And the thing is, many of those witnesses like Rhys Cohen and Sherry Mendes, they have changed their testimonies many times, and they made their way all the way to Tapper, on his show, and he has been laundering the whole idea about the mass rape day after day. And nobody, even the New York Times, they were going to make a podcast, The Daily, about that article, and they withdrew it because there's not enough evidence. Okay, let's say I'm wrong. Let's say that all of that is wrong. Isn't that at least a shred of doubt that we should investigate this further? Because in that report, Pamela Patton said that we send 5 requests to the Israeli authorities and 1 request to the Palestinian authorities, and none of our requests in the Palestinian.
But as I read to you, she then goes on to say there's clear and convincing information of hostages, Israeli hostages, having sexual violence, including rape, sexualized torture.
And also the Commission was also unable to verify reports of sexualized torture and genital mutilation. Additionally, the Commission found some specific allegations to be false, inaccurate, or contradictory with other evidence or statements and discounted these from its assessment.
But what is the central point of your argument is that Hamas are not quite as bad as we thought on October 7th?
No, I don't care about Hamas. I care about the Palestinian people killed every day.
How can you not care about Hamas?
The thing, you know what? Hamas is terrible, man. He's there a horrible rapist.
Hamas...
You know what? Hamas did everything.
All right,
Hamas did all of that.
Let me ask you.
Hamas did all of that.
Should Hamas retain any power coming out of this in Gaza?
I don't know if any of them will be left.
Should they retain power in principle?
It's up to the Palestinian people to
what
do
do you
it.
think?
I don't know Hamas. By the way, I told you before.
No. Okay, let's just be honest. Okay, no. But a lot of other things need to happen in order to not have another October 7th. Jesus Christ. Because once again, it doesn't matter who's the government. If you continue to occupy innocent people, they're going to rebel. They're not going to like you at best, okay? They're probably going to hate you. So it doesn't matter if Hamas is in power, out of power, if none of the other conditions have changed in the sense of the Palestinian people having dignity and rights to opportunity and just freedom and living. it's going to be fill-in name in that spot, and it's going to happen again. It's not hard. It's not complicated to kind of understand that. Let's just say that and just move on.
I'm not a big fan of Hamas. As a matter of fact, Hamas being an Islamic faction, I'm not a big fan of.
What about Hezbollah?
Their project. Same. I'm not a big fan of them either. But you should not punish a whole group of people, our population, because a militant group that is embedded within the population did some atrocities. Israel has the absolute ability to locate and kill people through their satellite, and they have that. There is no excuse for blowing up empty universities or mosques or churches or destroying 90% of the infrastructure of a place. No matter what they did, because the people who did it, they're horrible, they are zombies, they're crazy, they're terrorists. You should not punish a whole people. That's collective punishment.
So let me ask you, I don't disagree with some of what you just said.
Okay.
I do think it's been a collective punishment. I think it's wrong. I think it's gone way too far. I think that Gaza has just been systematically destroyed. And I have no idea what the plan is for after this, because the Israelis don't seem to have a plan. And
some reports that I was reading today didn't get it finished, but a lot of Israeli people are now setting up camp in Gaza. Like, they're literally taking land. And this happened, I wish I would have had my notes ready for this, but this has happened plenty of times throughout history, where a war would happen, it would end, Israel would be victor, they would take more land. Israel would be attacked again, Israel would win, they would take more land. And that's what's happening today, or I don't want to say today per se, but that's what I've read has already started happening in Gaza, in these places that's just been destroyed, wiped out. They're already starting to settle into these places. So yes, Piers, they do need a plan, and it seems like they already found one, which is to now take over more land.
Worries me enormously now, the rhetoric about going after the Iranian regime and where that will lead because of the way that global politics is working in relation to Iran. But these are big picture issues. We may get time for that. Let me ask you specifically about the Jerusalem Post, who've accused you repeatedly of anti-Semitism. What do you say to that? I mean,
well, everybody's an anti-Semite in the eyes of Israel.
Do you think you are or not?
What is anti-Semitism?
Somebody who has a hatred of Jewish people because of their Jewish ethnicity?
Good. Where did I show that kind
I'm
of
just asking
Jewish people?
How do you feel about Jewish people?
I mean, should I go to do the white man thing? Like, most of my friends are Jewish.
No. How do you feel about Jewish people?
Like any other people. Like any other people. What are you talking about?
Well, when you've been accused of...
So I've been accused of being a CIA
Yeah, I'm not saying
operative.
you're guilty. I'm just saying you've been accused
I've been accused of so many things. You've been accused of so many things
Of course.
too, right?
And it's annoying.
And then the thing is, anti-Semitism...
If you're not that person.
Anti-Semitism has turned into, if you criticize Israel, you're anti-Semitic.
I agree.
Yeah, so it's
been used as a protective shield against criticism.
It's a way to shut down conversation.
But there are also lots of genuine anti-Semites
Yes,
who do hate Jewish people.
of course.
And want to kill them.
And there is a lot of people who hate Muslims, and there's a lot of people who hate gays, and there's a lot of people who hate white people.
Right.
Yeah.
What do we do about where we are with this situation now? What's the solution?
Solution?
Yeah, genuinely.
I mean, I'm not a political analyst, but again, and I'm sorry being one-sided, but there is one side who has all the power, all the money, all of the weapons. They have been controlling the political spectrum. This is how many people in the Congress.
So how do we get to a solution? Do you believe in the idea of do you believe in a two-state solution, for example?
I don't know. I mean, it's not up to me.
Could it work? Could you have a Palestinian state
the way it's
side
done?
by side with an Israeli state?
How would it work with Israel is taking all of the West Bank and cutting it
Well, that's why I'm
into
asking.
smaller Gaza?
How could it work?
Again, I told you a quote from a book by Obama, and I'm telling it again. The problem with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict is that one side of them is very powerful and the other side is very weak. Why would Israel concede?
But if Israel has the power, as you say, and I'm not denying they have a lot of power, if they have the power, how should that best be wielded to try and find peace out of all this? I mean, I remember Northern Ireland, right? People said it was intractable. loyalists and Republicans wanting to kill each other all the time, living side by side in utter enmity. And they did eventually get there. They had fresh leadership and they got there. The terrorists became politicians. They worked it out. They got peace. There is now peace in Northern Ireland where many people for decades didn't think there would be. Did you see any parallels there?
Because the stronger side, which is Britain at the time, they kind of like they were reasonable. They didn't go and assassinate the leaders of the IRA, right?
They tried.
They tried, but they didn't.
Yeah, they tried. They did kill a lot of IRA members, yeah.
Yeah, but there's people, there's negotiators that you don't kill.
What they didn't do was go and target and attack civilian areas with bombing to kill IRA terrorists.
That's good.
Well, they didn't do what...
So why didn't England do that? Why did they were like IRA terrorists? Why did they go in and just like destroy Belfast? Why didn't they do that?
Because their own side were also living in those homes.
Yeah.
They all lived amongst each other.
No, because...
Well, you don't have in Gaza. Well, in
because,
Gaza, you don't have Israelis living side by side.
So wait a minute. So if there were Israelis living, you would protect those lives, but the Palestinians, you would protect them because of civilians.
Obviously is far more unlikely to bomb a civilian population area, even if they think Hamas are lurking inside it, if Israeli people are also living there.
Yeah, because they don't.
So that's the difference between that and Northern Ireland, is my point.
Yeah, because they don't care about the Palestinians' lives.
Well,
so I mean, yes. Youssef, yes. Two-state solution. Once again, I don't know how that would come about because Youssef is right that why would Israel like give up anything? You know, like they are stronger. They can essentially do what they want because they got the backing of America. So like, why would they like come to a table to like go 50-50? Like, you know, like they're going to take what they want. You know, but it needs to be a two-state solution. However that is constructed, however that is brought about, there's smarter people than me who can figure that out. And Benjamin Netanyahu needs to be punished for his war crimes. I think that is probably just as important as a two-state solution because now you're showing the world and people that if you do things like this, you're going to be held accountable. America's friend or not, you commit war crimes, you will be held liable for that. So I think, and you know, I'm pretty sure, once again, smarter people who know this, who's been researching this and reading this and following this along longer than I've been born, okay? But just from, you know, the outside looking in, that at least needs to be the bare minimum. But to Yosef's point, why would Israel give an inch when they can take a mile and some?
It doesn't involve Israeli lives. But
yeah.
The analogy with Northern Ireland would be, in that circumstance, it would.
I don't know how can we move forward with one side having all the power and they can. I mean, like if Israel is actually sincere about it, they should end the education. I mean, they should do the mildest thing, which is like stop the settlement.
I agree.
They're not.
Somebody asked me, the Palestinian ambassador to the UK said to me, do you think what's been happening with these settlements, expansions in the last year on the West Bank, is that terrorism? I said, yes, it is. Mm-hmm. To me, it's what's been happening. So basically, it's terrorism.
So Israel is committing daily terrorism every single day.
I agree. On the West Bank,
and
I think
at a certain point, something had to give. And it's terrible, but something had to give. Again, if you treat people like animals, they behave as animals.
So how do we get...
I mean, I don't know. I mean, like, do we expect the Palestinians to sit down as well-behaved victims while they're being killed? Well, they should be slaughtered while not making noise. That's impossible.
But who should bring Palestine out of this?
I don't know, because all of the Nelson Mandelas are either killed or in jail.
Should it be other Arab countries?
I don't know.
Some people talk about a coalition of UAE or Saudi.
I don't have a solution. I don't have a solution, Piers.
Really? Have you not thought about it?
I'm not having a solution because the solution is very difficult and complicated when Israel is doing what it's doing and having all of the support of the Western media and the Western government.
What should America be doing?
Get off the phone and say, stop. As easy as it is. But they don't. It's terrible.
Why haven't they done that, do you think?
When did they ever do it?
Well, it's been President Biden and
oh yeah, they would have like a slap on their hand every now and then, and they stop and they pause the arms, and then they will continue doing it again. No. I mean, they're doing it again, and the thing is, like, they're using the same exact thing. You know, it's like, do you remember the one that I saw you, that I showed you? This one, similar. This was like the kill between the Palestinians.
Yeah.
Remember that?
I remember that.
Now they go into Lebanon and they're doing the same thing. Look at that. These are the Lebanese.
But they're also
Lebanese
destroying Hezbollah.
Yeah, but at what cost? And the thing is, like, if you look at that, remember when I gave you like what is the exchange rate?
Yeah.
It seems that the best investment that you can do is Israeli souls because they never depreciate. Israeli souls, invest in Israeli souls.
Given the
It's an
Hezbollah's,
oxymoron, right?
but given,
I don't know if they have.
but given that Hezbollah's response on October the 8th was to start unleashing rockets at Israel, which they carried on doing all year, at what point did they not expect?
They didn't unleash rockets at Israel. Mehdi Hassan already told you that. They made it in Shabah farm, which is
No,
like
he
an
was
occupied
splitting
territory.
hairs.
What?
He was splitting hairs.
No.
Well, okay, but it's land that Israel's claimed to disown since 1967.
Yeah.
Okay, so they say it's theirs.
You know,
say
but
it's
you
not.
know what's the difference?
But they knew what they were
You
doing.
know what's the difference between Hezbollah and Israel? Although I'm not a big
Go
fan
on.
of Hezbollah. Hezbollah always targets military bases.
That's not true. They've killed civilians.
Yeah, how many?
Not as many as Israel, but they've killed civilians.
They killed 42.
So, but the idea, so the idea they're only
How many
targeting,
is- how
they're
many-
only targeting
And
military. is
Israel
not
killed
true.
1,000 for 42. That's like a 1 to 20.
But they've also targeted thousands of Hezbollah very precisely with these pages.
And then they killed 1,000 people.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not really targeted. And when you go and vaporize a whole square or a whole block, killing 200 people. I mean, the thing is, we talk about terrorism, right? We talk about terrorism, right? But we never...
Is killing terrorists, even if you kill civilians in the process, is that in itself an act of terrorism to you?
Oh, so what's the proportionality,
You
right?
tell me.
I know, I don't know, but it's not 1 to 1,000.
But if you keep saying you don't know, it's a convenient get out. You're
Well,
a very smart. You're a very smart
will you
guy.
do the same thing?
Well,
Well, I ask you, what should the Palestinians do? Like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, but your answer to whenever I say what should Israel do, you don't have one for any of it.
Stop what they're doing. That's actually what they know.
But you want-
I do know. They
Well,
should
hang on.
summon.
Yeah, but
Like-
I'm not sure you do because you don't like Hamas, you don't like Hezbollah, you don't like terrorism. You know they've been waging terrorism against Israel. I don't know what you expect Israel to do.
What do I expect Israel to do? What do I expect the people that actually have received the occupation and the killing of Israel every day? I mean, like, you're killing them. I mean, should they just like stay silent?
So they're all,
I mean,
they're all resistance, all freedom fighters?
yeah, for their people, yes.
In your mind, are they?
If I was living in Palestine, if I was living in Lebanon, I would actually cheer on those people because basically they're the bigger bully with bigger guns. They're killing me. So yeah.
And that's an interesting question. I would say, and Ta-Nehisi, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. Ta-Nehisi Coates, he said it best. During the slave uprising with Nat Turner, going around killing every slave master, their kids, their wife, everything, just killing hundreds of their slave owners. I can imagine, of course, that there were slaves that said, hey, we got to kill them all. They've been doing this for over 300 years. Like, we got to kill them all. And some slaves would understand that. But I would have to imagine, and I'm stealing this from Coates, that there had to have been some slave that said, this is not right. Yes, kill the slave owner, the one that's been cracking us with the whip. But their kids, their babies, that's too much. So I would like to believe that, yes, of course, that there had to have been some Palestinian people cheering on Hamas on what they did, which, if you're being honest with yourself, you would understand why. Be honest with yourself. Don't play yourself. But I know that there had been Palestinian people that did not agree with that. That's just human nature, so.
I mean, a lot of people who live there don't agree, but
No.
I don't know.
A lot of people I know in the Lebanon do not agree with
Yes,
that at
I
all.
understand, but a
they
lot
think Hezbollah has been a very insidious influence on that country.
Of course, but like even those people who hate Hezbollah, they don't like what Israel is doing to them.
But what is it? About 30% of people in Lebanon support Hezbollah. 70% don't.
I don't have these
The
numbers.
2/3 of the country don't support them.
Yes.
They don't represent the people.
Oh, good. So they don't represent the people, and yet you're killing people around Hezbollah, even if they don't represent them. So why?
Well, they're killing, in their eyes, they're killing terrorists.
Well, in their eyes, they're doing whatever. In their eyes, they were thinking that whatever school that they bombed in Egypt was inside the military base.
Do you accept, as we've been talking, though, that it is complicated? It's not simple.
No, it's not really complicated. There is an occupation that should end. If the occupation didn't happen, all of that wouldn't have happened. This problem was pushed.
You believe it, if the occupation, as you put it,
yes.
And I don't dispute the terminology, but if you believe if they just ended that tomorrow, any form of control over Palestine, there would be no more attacks or ideology of wanting to attack Israel after that. See, I think it's very naive. There would be. These groups are wedded to the elimination of Israel.
I would say, if occupation ended right now, it is a possibility that there will still be some people who will still be upset, be hateful, to still want to attack Israel. True. But if you continue the occupation, I guarantee 100% you're going to, I don't know how many times I've said this within an hour, it's going to happen again. 100%. It may not be next year or 5 years or 10 years from now, because you're just destroying the entire place, but it's going to happen again. That's pretty simple understanding. So what do you have to lose if you're Israel? Once again, you got the bigger stick. It's obvious that you got the bigger stick. No question. But if you continue to occupy and treat these people like Youssef said, like animals, they're going to bite the hand once again.
Houthis, Hezbollah, Hamas, Iranian regime, they want Israel done, gone. And
there's a lot of countries
surrendering any kind of control over Gaza, for example, is not going to stop that. So how do you
keep doing it, right?
Well, no, but how do you move to a place where you no longer do it? You don't expose your country, as they put it,
as
to
much as I don't
insecurity.
like all of these groups that you have mentioned, but those people have actually it's a cause and effect, right? Because again, and Mahdi hasn't told you, there was no Hezbollah in 1978, there was no Hezbollah in 1982, and there was no Hamas in 1948, and there was no Hamas in 1970s.
But the ideology existed.
Really?
Yeah, the groups weren't set up, but the ideology existed.
Where was the ideology?
No, I would have to disagree with, because once again, it's because it's fresh to me. The PLO, people can have their conversations around that, but they were not Hamas by a mile. You know what I'm saying? So Youssef is right. There was no Hamas. Just until early 2000s, but occupation has been happening way before Hamas, and some would say with the failures of the PLO and still occupation and just these petty tits for tats, like that's kind of what created Hamas and kind of just got them into the position that they're in now. So let's just be honest, bro.
1978.
Well,
where were Hezbollah?
You don't think anyone in those places hated Israel in 1978?
Israel doesn't need an excuse to go in and occupy and kill people. They're already talking to you
but
about
they say they do.
But the thing is, Piers, you already have people in Israel talking openly about a greater Israel, about like a huge expansion of Israel. Tomorrow they will find a Hamas in the West Bank. They will find a Hezbollah in Jordan. They will find a Houthi in Syria.
What do you think they really want to achieve, Israel?
Expansion.
But to what end? To what?
I don't know. You should ask them, because they.
I do ask them, and they deny.
They have been.
Of course.
Well, how many times did they deny things, and how many times did they deny killing UN workers? How many times did they deny? And the thing is, Piers, you can talk whatever you want about the Houthis and the Hezbollah and whatever, but you have liars. You have people who are patent.
We have liars
liars
on both sides.
Yes, but one of them has the power, and one of them is taking my tax dollars and your tax dollars to be
Iran
supported.
has power. You would agree?
Yeah.
And Iran is funding and training Hezbollah, Hamas, and the Houthis. So they are exercising and wielding their own power in a proxy manner. So is there much difference between Israel wielding its power as a state against Iran wielding its mighty power through proxies.
Okay. I remember when you went on Trigonometry, you talked about Benjamin Netanyahu being a great visualist, right?
A great
Visualist.
What do you mean?
Like illustrate. He was like, he saw you. What was the word that you used? I don't know. Like when he
Oh, he took me to the map behind the desk,
right?
yeah. Put his hand up,
and he said, and he put like his hands around the country, and he thumbed against Israel.
Which it was a powerful optic.
It's not really. It's very deceiving.
Why?
Because most of the countries that he was measuring the hands, like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, are actually with either peace treaties or they're almost normalized. So basically, most of the huge, bad, big countries, they are not a threat to Israel.
But shouldn't that be where the Middle East should go? Shouldn't all the countries have normalized relations?
May I just finish my point? The thing is, when you put it like that, you're basically giving the idea of like, oh, look at these small victim countries that they have no power. Now, so the first thing, most of these huge countries have peace treaties with them. The second thing, size is not everything, because with the same concept, England is very small compared to India and Pakistan. India is very small compared to all of their colonies. It's not really about the size, it's about the firepower. It doesn't matter if David is half the size of Goliath, if Goliath is armed with a sword and David is armed with a machine gun. Israel, you can talk about the proxies and the Houthis, but the real power, they are supported by not just America, but England and Germany and France.
But do you not think that after the normalization of relations with, for example, UAE and Israel and so on, that it was clear that Saudi wanted to go down that same path, almost certainly still do, that Iran saw that as a massive threat to them and their power in the region, and that is why they helped orchestrate October the 7th to derail that process.
I really don't know how this would happen. This is like a very inside information that I think political
It's not that inside. Many people have reported it.
So, okay.
It makes perfect sense, right?
Maybe.
And if that's true, what's your view of how that should play out?
I mean, the thing is, even...
Wouldn't it be better if they all had normalized relations with Israel?
I think...
All those Arab countries?
Yes, I would love to have peace in the Middle East, but peace comes from justice. And the thing is, if you get peace just because you subjugate the people, that's not peace.
Should Arab countries take charge then out of this, of Gaza, of the Palestinian people, and shouldn't they lead the way? One of the arguments the Israelis say is, well, the Arab countries are nowhere, anywhere to be seen when this stuff blows up. It's always left to us to handle it. If Arab countries went in and took charge of Arab people in...
What do you mean take charge? What do you want them to do exactly?
Well, help form sustainable, peaceful governments.
And would Israel allow them?
And say, well, if they had normalized relations with Israel, say it's UAE leading it, right, or Saudi, and they said, look, we want to have normalized relations with Israel, so we're going to make sure there's no more of this stuff going on in Gaza, okay, leave it to us. And it was driven by Arab countries and Arab politicians, and they worked out a way to rebuild Gaza and to give the Palestinian people a genuine future, which didn't involve reliance on terror groups. And because of their relations with Israel, Israel could trust them to do that. Is that not, in the end, the only way this can happen?
That's a very wishful thinking, because Israel will not allow anybody to interfere. Israel has...
Maybe not.
Yeah, Israel
but they are normalizing relations with a number of Arab countries.
They're normalizing.
And once again, Youssef is bringing up a good point. It's I hate to say that it's up to Israel because I feel that the U.S. should try to stop Israel from just doing whatever they want, but obviously that's not what's happening. But Israel needs to let the Palestinian people do what they want to do with their nation, with their people, and what they want to do moving forward. If they want to associate themselves with other surrounding countries, let them do it. If they just want to just be their own people, let them do it. But once again, if Israel is continuing to do what they want and starts to take up more of the land and expanding, that's an issue. So once again, that will have to be left up to people who know more and obviously have more insight. But just wishful thinking, Israel needs to stop the bombing, stop the expansion. Just stop. 4 words or 4 letters. STOP. Just stop. So
Rising with Saudi, UAE, Egypt, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't it?
The matter is the occupation. Again, I'm going to go back
No, I
to the
agree,
same
but
thing.
that-
I know I
No,
sound
but-
like a
sorry,
broken
just to be
record.
clear, that would also involve the end of any Israeli occupation of any kind.
Yeah, okay, if you end the occupation, if the Palestinians accept the deal.
Yes.
Because the thing is that there's a lot of, I'm sorry to say, and I'm not meaning you, of course, there's a lot of deception and lies about what actually happened between, because most of the urban myth is that the Palestinians have squandered their chance time after time. Ehud Barak was on your show last week, and he told...
Arafat did walk away from what would have been the best deal.
That is not true.
It is true.
That's not true.
Bill Clinton talked me through the whole thing.
Okay.
I don't think he's a liar about stuff
He is a
like
liar. Do you know why?
but once again, that happened. Let me look at my notes here. Shoot, man. Let me see. So that happened 19. Hold on, that's not 19. 1979. So yeah, during the first Oslo Accords, or 1993. I'm sorry. From what I've been reading is, once again, one side says this was the greatest deal that they could take. The other side is saying, once again, why are we allowing you guys to set the terms and give us less? And that goes back further, you have to backtrack, put everything into context to understand. So it's like, once again, I understand you coming into my home and now you're taking over and you just want to give me 30% of my home that you just took over. I'm going to say no to that. And once again, it's not just it wasn't just an easy, this is the best deal that they ever had. Like, you have to hear what they said and put yourself in their position, and they felt like it wasn't a good deal. So we can't just sit here and say this was the best deal, like, taking a plea deal and you didn't commit the murder, spending 20 years of your life in prison is just the same as doing life in prison. Like, if you didn't do it and it's not a good deal, you say no, so, but once again, I'm not a lawyer, so don't take my advice.
Really?
Yeah, he is.
Why would he lie?
Okay, I'll tell you why. Because in 1998, during the negotiations, Netanyahu took him aside and he told him that we destroyed the tapes. And when he said destroyed the tapes, he's talking about Monica Lewinsky tapes. This is actually like an article from the Times of Israel, when actually this was used by Netanyahu, these tapes, as a leverage to him to release Jonathan Pollard, the
Sounds
spy.
like a bonkers conspiracy theory.
Times of Israel. Okay, but like,
does.
can I finish? Okay, I mean, like, sometimes.
Netanyahu destroyed Monica
No, he
Lewinsky
didn't
tape.
destroy it. No, he blackmailed the sitting president with sex tapes with Monica Lewinsky.
Do you believe that?
Yes, I believe that. But
I don't believe that.
I'll tell you what happened. I tell you. It's, by the way, I can give you that to read it. It's the Times of Israel. I'm not making this up. And there's actually like multiple books about it. And then Netanyahu, then Bill Clinton went to Georgetown to release Jonathan Pollard. Jonathan Pollard was a spy who stole the nuclear secrets of America. And then he was jailed, and he was given the Israeli citizenship in jail. And then he went to Georgetown, Bill Clinton, and said, like, release Jonathan Pollard. And said, like, I will resign if that happens. So I don't know, if I'm a president and I have sex tape against me by the prime minister by the Israelis, I would lie. Because what happened...
Who do you think would be the best?
I just want to finish something about Taba, because what happened in Taba, there is a very interesting video on YouTube between Joe Scorobo and Micah Brzezinski, and they were hosting Mr. Yevgeny Brzezinski, who's Micah's father. And Joe Scorobo said the same exact thing. He said, like, Yasser Arafat worked for the best deal ever. And then Brzezinski, who was the security, he was the national security advisor to Bill Clinton, he said, your information are so bad, it's embarrassing to listen to you, because what happened is that Arafat didn't walk away. He said, I need some time to take this deal to the Arab leaders because the deal was very controversial. And what happened is that Ehud Barak left Taba, he went back and he lost the elections in Israel. So it was terminated by Ehud Barak leaving Taba. It was in
All right,
Egypt.
but that's not the way Clinton recalls.
Yeah, well, he's alive.
Well, maybe they're all
Well,
lying.
Bill Clinton is a very. I mean, he lied. He lied about Monica Lewinsky. And he lied. He's a liar.
Who would be the better winner of the American presidential election in 2 weeks?
better?
For getting this sorted in the Middle East?
I don't know, because both
Trump or Harris?
Trump and Harris, both of them are competing over who's Israel's favorite bitch. I mean, I don't understand.
It wouldn't make any difference.
I came to America. I was so happy, like, to vote in the United States, and I was like one of those people, blue no matter who. But then I see the Republicans and the Democrats. They fight tooth and nails about everything. They fight on healthcare, about abortion, about guns, and then when it comes to Israel, it's like, who's better serving Israel?
True.
It doesn't make any sense. I mean, when Netanyahu went in Congress, he was like received like a rock star.
It was. I was so surprised.
It was like, and then I was watching it and I thought like this is how liberty dies.
But during that, and I want to say the second time Benjamin came through, there was a lot of Democratic Congress people who didn't come to that that announcement, or there was actually Democrats leaving. So we got to be honest here, and I said this plenty of times in plenty of videos. Yes, the Democratic Party is trying to compete with the Republicans on who is the best allies for Israel, but there is plenty of Democrats who are speaking out against that. Plenty people, Ilhan Omar, Cory Bush, Bernie Sanders, I believe AOC, and Nancy Pelosi. Name one person on the Republican side that is calling for a ceasefire or anything. Name one person. If Trump gets into office, he's going to try to prove a point to his Christian base that he is the best ally for Israel. And what is he going to do? Give Israel whatever they want to succeed. Look at the Abraham Accords. Trump didn't care about nothing. Nothing about historical context. He just wanted to prove a point. And he just made that happen for Israel. So, yes, Dems, Republicans are all pieces of shit when it comes to handling this situation. But unfortunately, there's a bigger piece of shit you don't want sitting in that seat. Let's just be honest.
A thunderous applause.
Well, it just shows that there is, for many American politicians, they will show blind support to Israel.
Yeah, but that's not right. That is not right.
I agree,
Piers.
but that's what it is.
That's terrible. I mean, that is not right. I mean, I don't know where that would take us.
You've done a song
Yes.
about which I wanted to end with because it just made me chuckle. What's the song called? It's about Bibi.
It's called Bibi's Trial.
Bibi's trial, because he's obviously facing corruption charges.
Yes.
Let's take a little look at this.
And that we can't do because then this video would be demonetized. So let's...
I mean, it made me chuckle, but the irony of this, of course, is that Netanyahu's never actually been popular as he is today since the start of all this on October the 7th.
Yeah.
Because the more he goes after Hamas and Hezbollah, the more Israeli people seem to support him.
Yeah, I mean, he is the guy who have bragged many times about sabotaging the peace accords. He is the guy who went in front of Congress and told them that you should invent Iraq, like a war that you have opposed, right? And again, it brings me back to the thing. I mean, the Gaza and the West Bank and all of that, I mean, it will happen again and again and again and again. I came here for the promise that I can choose people who can really represent me, but I am basically seeing people who don't really care about their American citizens. I've seen more tweets from American senators and congressmen standing with Israel more than I saw them standing with the victims of the hurricane in South Carolina. Even like their senators would go there and support Israel. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense, Piers, and it's wrong. And it's wrong. And the fact that you have a British journalist living in London, and then he gets raided by the counterterrorism police because he talked about Israel, that is very alarming, Piers. That is more dangerous than anything.
Well, I believe, as you know, in free speech and it being protected.
You should bring Asa. on your show.
Yeah.
I'm not trying, because this is a fellow journalist who have been talking about the Israeli crimes. And by the way, he can talk more better than like me about the Hannibal directive. You should invite him on your show.
I want to end with this, because you've just signed up to do Arabs Got Talent in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
And I, of course, was a talent show
I
judge
know.
on Britain and America's Got Talent.
Yes.
So finally we've reached a place of commonality.
Yes. But you're more veterans. Any advice for me?
Well, do you think you only landed this very lucrative gig because of my help?
Sir, you have all the credit.
Are the words you're looking for? Thank you, Piers, Bassem.
I told you have all the credit, but again, thank you, Piers. But hey, because of me, you started a YouTube channel, so how about thank you, Bassem?
It's very true. Thank you, Bassem.
Thank you so
What
much.
I would say to you, the best advice Simon Cowell said to me when I did America's Got Talent, which was before the British one. And he said, you can be as mean and tough as you like in your judgments. You just have to be right 80% of the time.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
if the public are watching and they don't agree with you and you're being mean, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm not.
But if they agree with you, the public are merciless when it comes to bad talent.
Well, you know, in 2014, you were chosen by Mirror to be the most likely celebrity for housewives to have a steamy relationship with.
That was not just come out.
Yeah.
You serve it.
Oh, yeah. It's new. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, it's new.
Most housewives in Britain wanted to have an affair with me over Brad Pitt.
Wow, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about that?
You know what I feel about
that's a crazy visual.
I feel bloody good about
I cannot
that.
unsee this.
I didn't think I still had it in me. Bassem, you've come all the way from LA for this interview. It's the third time you've...
Oh, man. That was awesome. Once again, let's go ahead and sit back. That was almost 2 hours. Guys, if you're watching this and you reached this far, let me know in the comments. I want to give you the biggest thanks in the world. If you're sitting this long, 2 hours, I appreciate that. Like, join the Discord and let's have that conversation. I want to give you a big digital hug, okay? But once again, if you guys disagree with anything that I said in this video, this long ass video, let me know in the comments down below or join the Discord so we can continue that 101 conversation. And like always, let's have that conversation.